let f of x equal 3x squared minus 4x and g of x equal x squared minus x plus 7. We want to find f plus g of x, f minus g of x, f times g of x, and f divided by g of x. And then we want to give the domain of each. So let's go ahead and do this. So the first one that we're going to look at is f plus g of x. So since we're looking at this one here, it's always important to write down the definition first so you kind of know where to go here. So you have f plus g of x. Now since f is written first, that means you're going to take f of x, which is the function f of x, and then you're going to add g of x, which is this function here. So we're going to go ahead and put in 3x squared minus 4x, and then plus, we're going to put parentheses around that second function, which is x squared minus x plus 7. Okay, the reason why we put parentheses around that is because there's a positive sign or a plus sign that we would need to distribute. Now, when we distribute that positive sign, it's not really going to change the outcome of the sign, but it's just important when you have to subtract. So this is going to be plus x squared minus x and then plus 7. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to combine like terms. We have 3x squared plus x squared, which is 4x squared. We have minus 4x minus x, which is minus 5x. And then we have plus 7. So therefore, that is the result of the first one. So let's go ahead and put that in there. So we have 4x squared minus 5x plus 7. 4x squared minus 5x plus 7. Let's check our answer, and there's our result. Now let's go ahead and do the second one. So the second one here is we need to find f minus g of x. So again, we're going to write down f minus g of x, and we want to write down what the definition states. So that means we're taking f of x, and then we're subtracting g of x. So again, we know that f of x is 3x squared minus 4x, and then minus, and in parentheses, the function g of x is x squared minus x plus 7. So we have 3x squared minus 4x. And now we're going to distribute the sign to all three of those terms. So a negative times x squared is going to give us negative x squared. A negative times minus x is going to give us plus x. A negative times plus 7 is going to give us minus 7. So now let's go ahead and combine like terms. So we have 3x squared minus x squared, which gives us 2x squared. We have negative 4x plus x, which gives us minus 3x. And then it's minus 7. So therefore, there is our answer for f minus g of x. So we have 2x squared minus 3x minus 7. So 2x squared minus 3x minus 7. Let's check the result, and there's our answer. Now we want to find f times g of x. So let's go ahead and do that. So we have f times g of x, which is this third one here. Now this means that if you take f of x, you're going to multiply it by g of x. So what happens when you multiply that together? Well, we know that we have parentheses 3x squared minus 4x, and we're multiplying it by x squared minus x plus 7. So what does that equal? Well, you can multiply it however way you want. I'm going to use the box method here to multiply it. So in the first one, we have two terms. We have 3x squared, and we have minus 4x. And that gives us two rows. The second we're multiplying by is three terms. We have x squared we have minus x, and then we have plus 7. So that means we're going to have 3 columns. So we're going to find the area of the first square. 3x squared times x squared is 3x to the 4th. 3x squared times minus x is minus 3x cubed. And 3x squared times 7 is going to give us 21x squared. Negative 4x times x squared is going to give us negative 4x cubed. Negative 4x times negative x is going to give us positive 4x squared. And negative 4x times 7 is going to give us negative 28x. So now we're going to combine like terms. So we have 3x to the 4th. And these are like terms. So we have minus 4x cubed minus 3x cubed, which gives us minus 7x cubed. And then we have 4x squared plus 21x squared, which gives us plus 25x squared. And then it's minus 28x. So therefore, there is our answer for that. So we have 3x to the 4th minus 7x cubed. So we have 3x to the 4th minus 7x cubed. And then plus 25x squared minus 28x. So plus 25x squared, and that's minus 28x. Let's just read. So it's 25. Let's go ahead and check our answer, and there's our result. Now we want to find f divided by g of x. So let's do that. So for step number 4, okay, let's go ahead and do that. We have the definition f over g of x. And so what that means is you're taking the function f of x and then you're dividing it by g of x. Okay, so f of x is the function 3x squared minus 4x, and then you're dividing that by x squared minus x plus 7. Okay, now if we wanted to simplify it a little further and we factored out an x, we would get 3x minus 4 all over x squared minus x plus 7. Now this is the simplified form, but my math lab wants you to put this answer in. So we're going to put this result in, which is 3x squared. Well, first we're going to put our fraction in. We're going to put in 3x squared. And then that's minus 4x. And then in the denominator we have x squared minus x plus 7. Let's check our answer, and there is our result. Now, if you put in the other version, if you put in this version here, it's going to say it's incorrect. So you got to make sure you put this one in there. Okay. Now we want to find the domain of f plus g of x. So we need to look at each one of these functions. So if we take a look at this function, okay, we want to know what is the domain. Remember that the domain is all the values of x that you can substitute into this expression or equation. So the domain means you can put anything in for x. So that's going to go from negative infinity to positive infinity. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to put in negative infinity to positive infinity. So parentheses, negative infinity, comma, positive infinity. Check our answer, and there is our result. Now what about f minus g of x? Well, if you take a look at f minus g of x, okay, it's the same thing. We have any value we can plug in for x, and there's going to be no restrictions. So it's going to be the same thing. So we're going to take, again, parentheses, negative infinity, comma, infinity. Check our answer, and there is our result. Now let's take a look at the domain of f times g of x. So this is f times g of x, and again, you can put any value in for x. So therefore, the domain of this function is going to go from negative infinity to positive infinity. So let's go ahead and do that. So we have negative infinity, comma, positive infinity. Check our answer, and there is our result. Now we need to find a domain of f divided by g of x. Okay, so in this case here, we have a denominator, and that denominator cannot be 0. Okay, and neither can the numerator. The numerator cannot also be 0. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to take x squared minus x plus 7, and we're going to find out where does it not equal 0. Now we can either complete the square or use the quadratic formula because we can't factor this. And the reason why we can't factor is because we don't have two numbers that when we multiply them together to get the positive 7 is going to give us negative 1. So by using the quadratic formula, we would say that a equals 1, b equals negative 1, and then c equals 7. So if we plug this into the quadratic formula, remember the quadratic formula is negative times b, which is negative 1, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is negative 1 squared, minus 4 times the value of a, which is 1, times the value of c, which is 7, over 2 times a. Okay, now if we go a little further, we would end up with positive 1 plus or minus. Now what we would get inside here, which is the discriminant, we would get 1 minus 28, which is equal to negative 27. So this is going to give us negative 27 over 2. Okay, so this gives us imaginary solutions. Okay, what that means is in this case that 0 is not going to give us, so if we put in a 0, there's nothing that's going to give us 0 into this particular problem. So therefore the domain is going to be all real numbers. Okay, now we can verify that on Desmos before we put our answer in. So let's go ahead and graph this function in Desmos. Okay, so we have, let's see here. Okay, so we have parentheses 3x squared minus 4x. And then we're going to divide that by the function in the denominator, which is x squared minus x plus 7. So if you take a look at this graph, right, there's no gaps, right? There's nothing that makes this undefined. So you can see here that there's always going to be an x value that corresponds to that graph. Therefore, the domain is all real numbers. So let's go ahead and put that in here. So we have negative infinity to positive infinity. Check our answer, and then there is our result.